These words from Nietzsche challenge everything you believe about your identity and potential. Have you ever wondered if the life you're living is truly yours? Most people live their entire lives following paths chosen by others, never discovering their inner genius. Like instruments gathering dust, their unique melodies remain unplayed. They die with their music still inside them. Your authentic self, the genius within you, may be hidden beneath layers of external expectations and societal programming. What would happen if you stripped away these layers and finally heard your own voice? If that question sparked something in you, like the video and subscribe because this is just the beginning of a deeper journey into who you really are. Imagine waking up each morning with a sense that something essential is missing from your life. A feeling that you're living someone else's story rather than your own. You go through the motions, the career path your parents encouraged, the relationships others approve of, the opinions that keep you safely within the bounds of acceptable conversation. But beneath these carefully curated choices lies a persistent emptiness. A quiet voice asking if this is truly your life, or merely a reflection of what others expect. This discomfort points to what Nietzsche identified as the herd mentality, a condition where we unconsciously adopt the values, beliefs, and aspirations of those around us. Unlike the dramatic forms of control we might recognize and resist, this influence operates invisibly, shaping our identity without our awareness. This subtle conformity connects directly to that feeling of emptiness. We want what we're told to want, fear what we're told to fear, and measure success by standards we never consciously chose. Most people never question the values and expectations imposed on them by society. We absorb these standards from our earliest moments, through education, media, family dynamics, and social reward systems, until they become integrated into our perception. The young woman who abandons her passion for science because of subtle social messaging that it's not feminine enough responds to the invisible hand of collective values that shaped her sense of possibility. In our digital age, this herd dynamic has intensified. Social media platforms have become modern theaters where we perform our conformity for likes and shares, each of us actors carefully following an unwritten script. The pressure to present a persona aligned with current trends creates a fundamental disconnect between our authentic selves and the image we project. We become curators of our own lives rather than participants in them, constantly checking the social mirror to ensure we remain acceptable to others. This digital performance amplifies our tendency towards social comparison, leaving many feeling inadequate when measured against the polished, filtered lives of others. The collective morality created by the herd demands conformity through powerful mechanisms of reward and punishment. Those who deviate face social consequences, judgment, exclusion, ridicule. The price of membership in the community becomes submission to its unwritten rules. Consider how quickly someone expressing an unpopular viewpoint faces social ostracism. The psychological weight of potential rejection often feels heavier than the value of authentic self-expression. This conformity gradually erases our unique qualities and potential for greatness. Every time we silence an unconventional thought, abandon an unusual interest, or suppress a genuine emotion to maintain social harmony, we chip away at our authentic self. Over time, these compromises accumulate until we become strangers to ourselves, unsure of what we truly want or believe, apart from external validation. This phenomenon explains why many apparently successful individuals experience profound emptiness. Having achieved everything the herd defines as valuable, they find themselves hollow. Psychology research confirms this observation. The dissonance between our authentic self and the persona we present creates internal conflict manifesting as anxiety, depression, and decreased well-being. Studies directly link living according to externally imposed values with lower life satisfaction, contributing to rising mental health challenges in modern society. Yet Nietzsche's critique wasn't meant to inspire despair, but to illuminate a path toward freedom. Understanding these invisible chains is the first step toward breaking them. By recognizing how collective values have shaped our identity, we gain the perspective needed to evaluate which truly serve our unique nature and which merely keep us confined within social boundaries. This awareness creates the possibility of choice, where previously there seemed to be none. We can begin to distinguish between the voice of the herd and the quieter voice of our authentic self. Hidden beneath your socially constructed identity lies what Nietzsche called your Dionysian nature, a wellspring of creative energy that most people never access. When was the last time you felt truly alive, expressing something that came from the depths of your being rather than from your carefully maintained social persona? Consider Michael, a mid-level marketing executive whose life appears successful by conventional standards. Each day unfolds in predictable patterns: the 6 a.m. alarm, the hurried coffee, the fluorescent-lit office where he crafts strategies to sell products he feels no connection to. His evenings dissolve into mindless scrolling and streaming shows he barely remembers. He owns a comfortable home, drives a nice car, and receives regular promotions. Yet recently, he's been waking up with an inexplicable heaviness, a sense that something essential is missing. During his morning commute, he finds himself envying the street musician playing saxophone with complete absorption. One evening, while organizing his garage, Michael discovers a box of forgotten possessions from his college days. Among them lies a sketchbook filled with architectural drawings, buildings he once dreamed of designing before pursuing a more practical career path. As he flips through these pages, something stirs within him, like an old painting whose vibrant colors emerge as layers of dust are wiped away. This moment represents what Nietzsche might call the first whisper of the authentic self, breaking through the noise of social conditioning. This recognition marks the beginning of what Nietzsche considered an essential inward journey. For Nietzsche, who described himself as the last disciple of Dionysus, exploring our psychological depths reveals a unique creative force he called the genius of the heart. This genius is a capacity to understand and express one's authentic desires and emotions. Nietzsche's association with Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, fertility, and madness, symbolizes his belief that true self-discovery requires descending into the psychological abyss that most people carefully avoid. The Dionysian represents our connection to instinct, emotion, and creative chaos, elements often suppressed by societal structures. By embracing this Dionysian nature, we access parts of ourselves that contain our greatest potential for creation and authentic living. How might someone like Michael begin this journey? Nietzschean philosophy and modern psychology suggest techniques like free association and journaling as complementary gateways to the subconscious. In free association, one allows thoughts to flow without judgment, perhaps beginning with simple prompts like, "What brings me joy?" Journaling extends this practice, creating a record of these explorations where patterns emerge over time, revealing activities, environments, or relationships that consistently energize rather than deplete. Michael might notice how his body responds differently when discussing architectural design versus marketing strategy, a subtle physical excitement that signals alignment with his deeper nature. When considering major life decisions, these practices bring clarity. Michael might realize that while his current job provides financial security, it lacks the creative expression he craves. This insight doesn't immediately solve his dilemma, but it brings his authentic desires into focus. As Michael experiments with these practices, glimpses of his authentic self begin to emerge. He starts sketching buildings during lunch breaks. He enrolls in a weekend architecture course. Each authentic expression reveals more about who he truly is and what brings him alive. Being a genius of the heart doesn't require abandoning all responsibilities or achieving spectacular creative breakthroughs. It means developing the courage to listen to your deepest desires through regular self-reflection. It means recognizing when you're making choices based on external expectations versus internal truth. It means honoring your Dionysian nature rather than suppressing it for social acceptance. The moment you start listening to your deepest desires, you'll encounter a paradoxical guardian at the threshold of transformation. Why do we often feel a strange mixture of admiration and hostility toward those who embody what we truly want to become? This emotional contradiction reveals something crucial about how we sabotage our own genius. When Michael attends his first architectural design workshop, he feels an unexpected wave of bitterness toward the accomplished architects presenting their work. These people must have natural talent, he thinks. They probably had connections I never had. This reaction illuminates what Nietzsche identified as perhaps the most insidious barrier to personal transformation: our tendency to label others as possessing unreachable genius rather than seeing their success as the product of persistent effort. This protective mechanism serves a subtle psychological purpose. By elevating those we admire to the status of gifted, we create a convenient excuse for our own lack of progress. If their abilities stem from some innate quality, we're absolved from the difficult work required to achieve similar results. The emotional comfort of this belief erects an invisible barrier between us and our potential. This barrier resembles a locked door separating us from our authentic selves. The key to this door is curiosity about others' journeys, while the courage to turn that key represents our willingness to acknowledge the effort behind achievement. Without both elements, we remain trapped behind our resentments. Notice how this defense operates in your own life. Perhaps you've dismissed a successful writer as having a way with words, or attributed an entrepreneur's accomplishments to being in the right place. These explanations may soothe your ego, but they rob you of agency. When success becomes something that happens to the lucky few rather than something built through dedication, you surrender your power. Michael's resentment toward accomplished architects reflects his relationship with his own potential. Each time he attributes their success to talent rather than effort, he reinforces the belief that his transformation is impossible. This perspective keeps him safely distanced from both risk and growth. Nietzsche's biography provides a powerful counter-argument to this self-limiting belief. Despite suffering from debilitating ailments throughout his life, he became the youngest professor of Greek linguistics at just 23 years old. This achievement emerged from years of disciplined study and critical thinking, not effortless brilliance. What changes when we view those we admire not as superior beings, but as fellow travelers who started earlier or worked more consistently? This shift transforms resentment into a resource for growth. Instead of feeling diminished by others' accomplishments, we extract valuable insights from their experiences. Michael begins taking a different approach. He asks specific questions about process, dedication, obstacles, and lessons learned. The answers reveal not innate talent, but a path of practice, strategic decisions, and perseverance, all qualities Michael can develop. This approach requires emotional maturity and intellectual honesty. It means trading the comfortable fiction of unattainable genius for the challenging reality that greatness requires sustained effort. The question shifts from, "Why don't I have what they have?" to "What specific steps could I adapt to my own journey?" As his transformation continues, Michael develops habits that transform former sources of resentment into wellsprings of inspiration. He studies biographies focusing on methods rather than achievements. He seeks mentorship with curiosity rather than intimidation. Most importantly, he redirects energy once spent on comparison toward his own creative practice. The path clarifies as Michael realizes his resentment was never about others' success. It was fear of fully committing to his authentic path. By focusing on concrete actions rather than mysterious qualities, he reclaims his power to change. Each step forward diminishes the gap between his current self and the architect he aspires to become. When Michael shifts from admiring talent to studying process, something unexpectedly transformative happens. The gap between his present abilities and his aspirations doesn't suddenly close. It transforms into a road with clear milestones. While many of us impatiently seek shortcuts to mastery, Nietzsche proposed something radical: that genius emerges from the patient accumulation of steps taken with craftsman-like dedication. Our cultural mythology around genius has created an excuse for mediocrity. We believe extraordinary abilities are bestowed rather than developed, that Mozart composed symphonies as a child because of divine inspiration, or that Einstein's theories emerged from a mind fundamentally different from our own. This belief protects us from confronting the demanding nature of achievement. What if what we call talent is simply the visible peak of an iceberg of practice? Nietzsche challenged this illusion. Do not talk about giftedness, inborn talents. One can assume great men of all kinds who were very little gifted. This statement places both responsibility and opportunity in our hands. Could the masters you admire simply be people who made different choices about their time and effort? Consider how this perspective transforms Michael's architectural journey. Instead of lamenting his late start, he breaks down the craft into fundamental components. Following Nietzsche's guidance about learning to form the parts perfectly before daring to make a great whole, Michael dedicates weeks to mastering architectural drawing basics, perfecting lines, understanding proportions, and studying how light interacts with materials. What appears as natural talent is typically the result of thousands of hours of deliberate practice hidden from view. When we encounter extraordinary abilities, we're seeing the culmination of countless decisions to refine a craft. Nietzsche suggests that the term genius devalues the deliberate practice required to develop expertise. Each evening after his day job, Michael dedicates 2 hours to architectural studies. His satisfaction comes from small improvements that accumulate day by day, mirroring Nietzsche's emphasis on valuing the process rather than fixating on outcomes. What might change in your life if you found joy in laying each brick perfectly, rather than only imagining the finished building? The shift in perspective is profound. When we attribute achievements to innate talent, we become passive observers of our potential. But recognizing mastery as the product of consistent effort makes us architects of our capabilities. The journey becomes more demanding but accessible to anyone willing to embrace discipline. Michael's progress accelerates when he focuses on specific weaknesses rather than practicing what comes easily. When his instructor notes his spatial reasoning needs improvement, he dedicates extra time to strengthen this skill.